Welcome to the RGLICKDRUM podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Glick of the RGLICKDRUM podcast. Please follow and like this video on my YouTube channel, and also follow me on my socials, which is my TikTok and my Instagram, RGLICKDRUMS. Today, everybody, we are celebrating the greatness of David Garibaldi. He has retired from Tower Power. Tower Power released a statement a couple days ago. And, David Garibaldi expressed, gotta do what your body tells you. I understood that, and everybody else should. He's done this for many years, and I just really am happy to grow up listening to Tower Power and also working with David Garibaldi and listening to him when I was a kid on those Tower records. For those who don't know Tower Power, come on, guys, you got to check them out. They're one of the best funk bands ever. Just get their records, listen on Spotify while you're working out, while you're drumming, whatever, and just listen to this amazing music and how innovative David Garibaldi is. So I know I'm going to be going all over the place because it's emotional for me, because David Garibaldi is not just an inspiration. He's a friend of mine because I studied with him at Dub's Drum Basement for years. And, this is just happiness to me because he has done so much for me. Just sitting and coaching the way I wanted to drum. And I go in there in a lesson and he's just like, what do you want to work on? And I want to be more innovative with my drumming. I want to work on the rudiments and stuff. And next thing you know, I'm working on paradiddles and all this stuff and learning what is hip and soul fascination. And I'm doing all those rudimental things that's very innovative of what he created in Tower Power. It was like, oh, that's the secret. And so when we were going through all that, he traveled to Canada to Drumeo and did everything on Drumeo on a lesson that he presented me. And it was just amazing. And so that's my personal story of David Garibaldi. And, we're still great friends and all that great stuff. Big moment of a couple years just studying with him. We were going at it. Next thing you know, got in that train accident outside of Yoshi's in Oakland. And that was very emotional. I went on TV and was crying and just was scared. Was very, very scared. And I just was sad about these news so much. And the best thing about it was, he came out of it really strong and okay. And I was just so happy. He did the things, he took the steps to get healthier. David Garibaldi is a strong guy. Like, he's not about, failing or just, he's always pushing. That's what he does. And for him to come back, and then I saw him at the Pleasanton Fairgrounds sitting in, because Herman Matthews was doing the band for a while he was out, and him playing. Saw him playing a DW 26-inch bass drum and a big rack tom, 2 floor toms, and big cymbals. And, it's crazy to see him play a kit setup like this. And I asked him, what'd you think about that kit setup, man? How you're playing? It's like, I just had to make it work. And it was, this is when he came back to Tower and came back to a lesson. So, yeah, he really eased his way back into it. So by that time, I learned more about him. I really did. I didn't just learn more about him just as a drummer. I learned more about him as a person. So it's really one of my personal stories. But anyways, to celebrate this retirement, let's talk about his drumming more than anything, how it impacts every drummer there is. Even if you're not a Tower Power fan or you never even heard of him, Like, seriously, if you haven't heard of Tower Power, please listen to You're Still Young Man, What Is Hip, Soul Vaccination. You know, those are just iconic songs. And What Is Hip and Soul Vaccination, in my opinion, are the most iconic grooves ever. So he impacted drumming with taking rudiments from stick control and putting accents and making really cool grooves, like putting bass drums and permutating them, just make them funky, like on the E, on the uhs, you know. So he was really one of the smartest drummers I've ever seen and just worked with. Like, he is. And he just took drumming as like, I know what I want to do. I know what I want it to sound like. I'm going to do everything in my control to make it as funky as possible. And he did. Without David Garibaldi and that damn rhythm section, there's no Tower Power. You know, the horn section really relies on that rhythm section and on David. And more than anything, as a drummer, as a musician, and to all you drummers and musicians, you know, people rely on you when you play with your band, especially in a funk band. Like, your horn section is going to rely on a rhythm section. Because if you don't have a good rhythm section, it's going to fall apart, especially when you're lacking on the drums. And so when I was studying with him and just getting his concept of like, and philosophy of making things funkier and more danceable, he just really broke it down of not only knowing all my rudiments, but knowing my rudiments to move around the kit and make simple grooves and sometimes complicated grooves, and also just learning how to control my hands. So the ghost notes. He was my ghost note guy. I mean, he helped me out with ghost notes so much that I just couldn't believe what my results in my drumming. And, you know, my father, for example, when I was taking lessons with Garibaldi, he just noticed that I'm playing Walking the Dog and Midnight Special with him, and he's like, you got that Garibaldi going on. I'm like, yeah. That's when I knew, like, I'm onto something. And so taking lessons from Garibaldi was just unbelievable. And I just want to celebrate more what he's done for the drumming community and Tower Power. And all this drumming, like rudiments, all of that stuff, it made the greatest music in the world. We tend to forget that sometimes. Like, we try to do all these innovative things, but it's got to make musical sense. So when it made musical sense, like any drummer, if you're doing things to be innovative and it's going on big records, you're onto something and you're there. And so David Garibaldi is a great example of that. And watch his Drumeo. And don't just watch the YouTube version of it, like hit the free version. Go on the the Drumeo website and subscribe and watch all that content there. It's great information. The greatest information I got from Garibaldi was just work on your sound levels. And I learned how to play things really soft. And I learned how to like really control my sticks really well. Controlled every stroke. And there was no better way to learn from a person who really cared about my drumming than him. And I hope to keep continuing that too with his retirement. And, you know, we will see. As far as like talking to him about his retirement and all that, I haven't yet. I think he just, you know, he's just on a craziness right now, just getting this news, and he's getting probably 1 billion like text messages and stuff like that, and whatever. And I'll leave it be for right now with this podcast. And I will contact. Don't worry. Just like I want to have a lesson with him eventually. But musical sense and creating those grooves, like on What Is Hip, Soul Fascination, and just taking simple ass rudiments and making it funky. That's just very innovative. And he got very inspired by Clyde Stubberfield. He loved James Brown. Oh my God, James Brown was his biggest inspiration. And one of my favorite songs from Tower Power is Digging on James Brown. That is so cool. The way that band plays that is just like danceable, and the words are just like right in your head, and the horns are just really tight. Digging on James Brown is one of my favorites. And I was just happy we worked on that too. So, drummers, if you don't know who David Garibaldi is, I really suggest you check him out. Like, get his books. Like, I'm telling you, you're going to break a lot of barriers and be more innovative with your drumming, no matter what style of music you're playing. His information just really is going to help you with that. His technique philosophy is amazing. Learning from Murray Spivak, Chuck Brown. I mean, with all those techniques coming in to stick control and making music and putting the rudiments around, is just utterly amazing. And became, you're still a young man, it's the biggest Tower Power hit. But also, Soul Fascinating and What Is Hip are big hits too. To me, those are big groove hits, in my opinion, in funk drumming history. There's nothing more iconic than those two songs I just mentioned. And honestly, like, those are songs I really love and I listen to every day. They're just great. And so, drummers and musicians, everybody, if you're a guitar player or a saxophone player, go listen to Tower Power. They're just one of the best bands in the world. And they're still doing it. They've been doing this for over 50 years. It's crazy. And I just can't thank Tower Power for changing my whole life as a drummer and as a musician, to be like, having music to inspire you to push forward. That's what this music is. It's to push forward. And you're still a young man, and What Is Hip, Soul Fascination gets me excited to play music, excited to play drums. And that's what the point is about celebrating Tower of Power and David Garibaldi's drumming, is that with every musician out there who loves Tower Power, with every fan that loves Tower Power, it just brings you like joy, like lots of joy and lots of excitement to just look forward to life more than anything. And so, yeah, this is absolutely like shocking news. I'm sad that he's going to be retiring, but I'm sure he has new plans coming up, and I wish him nothing but the best. I really do. And honestly, like, he's one of the best people, one of the greatest people you'll ever meet. He's one of the greatest people you ever meet. Like, I'm telling you, like, I'm just very happy to not just know him, but to be very inspired by him. I'll leave it at that. Anyways, if you love this content and love this podcast, subscribe to the RGLICKDRUM podcast, and also please follow me on my socials, RGLICKDRUMS, on TikTok and Instagram. I will see you guys soon, and take care, and Bye-bye. Peace.